Hi, I'm Dr. Angela Plowhead, and I would like to introduce you to Governor Kate Brown, incumbent Democratic candidate for Oregon Governor. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here with you.
Yeah, we're going to talk about people with disabilities and seniors today. And so, what are your top 3 priorities for seniors and people with disabilities?
Well, Oregon has been a national leader for seniors aging in place. And in order to keep that promise, I think it's critically important that we invest in reliable transportation, stable housing, and affordable health care. That's why, as governor, I was so proud to work with Republicans and Democrats to fund the most comprehensive transportation package ever. We've invested in public transit in communities across the state, and we're prioritizing projects for seniors and people with disabilities. Then we've also worked hard to make sure that we secure funding for the Oregon Health Plan. This is really important because that helps secure funding for our rural hospitals as well, and we know folks living in rural communities really depend on those. And then lastly, affordable housing. We've got over 11,000 units under construction throughout communities around Oregon, and it's so critically important that folks have safe, stable, affordable housing to live in.
Thank you so much. So if elected, what will you do as governor to ensure that we have transparency and accountability in Oregon's government, specifically in areas that impact seniors and people with disabilities?
Well, I believe strongly that Oregonians should know how their taxpayer dollars are being spent and how elected officials and public servants are spending their time. And that's why I've led sweeping reforms to both Oregon's ethics laws and to Oregon's transparency laws. I was the second governor in the entire country to make sure that every single public record request is available online, that folks around the state can see it. We've worked hard to streamline agency record release so that folks, public, can have easy access to those records and affordable access to those records. And we are making sure that that information is available online around the state or through an assistive device. Lastly, I've fought to make sure that we have funding for broadband access in our rural communities so seniors and people with disabilities can have access to the entire world without leaving their homes.
That's wonderful. So how would you prioritize state funding, including funding that's matched with federal funds, for services to an increasing senior and people with disabilities population?
Well, I think it's key that we invest in infrastructure. I talked about transportation infrastructure so that folks can get to their doctor's appointments, spend time with their grandchildren or grandnieces and nephews, making sure they can spend time with friends. I think affordable housing is also key. Lastly, I think it's really important that we build with this upcoming baby boomer generation, which I am a part of, that we build a really strong caregiving workforce. I fought in the early 90s for family medical leave so that parents could stay home and take care of ailing relatives without fear of losing their jobs. I believe absolutely that we need paid family leave so that parents can stay home and take care of their sick parents or their children that need help.
Thank you so much. What are your plans to improve vulnerable seniors and people with disabilities access to nutritious food necessary for maintaining their health and independence?
Well, seniors without adequate nutrition, their health is impacted, as you know, impacted immediately. So I think there's some really important programs out there that we must continue to invest in and fund. And the Oregon Food Bank is one of those programs. Last year as governor, I took my entire team to pack food boxes for the Oregon Food Bank. We had a great afternoon and learned a lot. I also learned at the food bank that because of the Oregon Health Plan and the fact that we're covering over 1 million people, that health care is no longer the primary reason why people are seeking access to the food bank. But that's not all. There's a federal program Senior Farm Direct, which enables seniors to access vegetables and fruits at our local farmers markets. And I see this as a win-win for both our seniors, making sure they have adequate nutrition, as well as our local farming community. Everybody benefits from having access to this healthy food products. And then lastly, we're doing some really creative work around the CCOs, the community care organizations, and these are the service organizations providing health care to vulnerable Oregonians. And they have flexibility in their dollars, but they're working to make sure that seniors have adequate nutrition, stable housing, and all the things that improve medical outcomes.
Thank you. What has motivated you to run for governor?
That's a really great question. I got into public service because I wanted to be a voice for the voiceless. I cut my teeth at the state capitol advocating for women and families. I've continued to fight to make Oregon a better place for all of our families. But I had a lesson in one of my first years as governor, and that is we had a fabulous trainer come assist us with how we're looking at human services. And she shared with us the story of wheelchair accessibility in the 70s. And it was wheelchair advocates who built on-ramps to sidewalks. And that was really start of a movement, right? But her lesson from that and my lesson from that, if we build sidewalks that are accessible for everyone, it benefits all of us. It benefits kids that are in roller skates. It benefits parents who are using strollers to cart their children. People are going to the bus or light rail with their suitcase, and of course folks in wheelchairs. And so that lesson for me, and this is my fight as governor, is to make sure that we're serving our most vulnerable Oregonians, and that when we do that, everyone in the state will benefit.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank
It's been
you.
wonderful talking to you.
Nice to see you. Keep up the great work you're doing.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us. This has been Governor Kate Brown, Democratic nominee for Oregon Governor.